Hello, my name is Francis Duranceau. I work as a field engineer at Unity Technologies, and today I'm going to give a quick overview of PBS and Global Illumination in Unity 5. PBS being an acronym for physically based shading. So quickly, I'll talk about physically based shading, and then we'll switch over to Global Illumination, and I will switch from PowerPoint to Unity so I can show you really what it looks like and a little bit how to use it, so you get it's a good taster. So physically based shading, one of the important features is that it supports HDR. So you can, for instance, you can have a skybox in your game, and then you can change the exposure of the light coming from the skybox and everything, and it will directly influence the look of your game directly. And you can have also with HDR you can also make sure that even if the sun is 10 times brighter than the rest of the sky, you will still see the sky. So for skybox who are supporting different file format like EXR, I think, which is a format for HDR skyboxes. It works both in the linear and gamma mode, and I think that the most interesting part is our new material editor. The cool thing with our material editor is that it's optimized for unused texture slots, and it will create the right code for maximum efficiency. What do I mean by that is, in the material editor you have diffuse, you have specular maps, you have normal maps, you have height maps, you have occlusion. The thing is, if you are not using all of those textures, don't worry, we will compile a shader that is optimized for the things that you are using, so there's no overhead. And consequently, you get maximum efficiency because there's nothing there that is not used by your game. And good news, it works on mobile. So what about having those realistic look even on mobile games? I think this is definitely the future. A lot of people are wondering what will happen with the shaders that they were using previously in Unity 4, or what if you are making a toon-looking game? Well, all of the previous shaders are still there. You can still use any of them. You can still make your own shaders. You can still do toon shading if you want. You can also start from our standard shader because you get source and then modify it and improve it and make it looks like exactly what you want. So no problem with this. Let's have a quick look in Unity 5. Here I just have this Viking house on a ground plane with a skybox, as we can see. Oh, while we're on it, I was saying that we could use the skybox and play a little bit with it. So I just click on my sunset, and you will see that when I change the exposure, it will react directly on the Viking house and the ground plane that I have here. And then I can also rotate, and you see that the direction where the light is coming from will have an impact here. So let's put it to something a little bit more shady, but we'll add more lights later. So on my plane, I use the new standard shader, as you can see here in my inspector. I use a diffuse map. The diffuse map, basically, it's probably the one that we all know about. It's really the base look of your material. If you are using then specular map is basically the reflectivity of your of the texture. If you are not using, well, and specularity, usually physical materials are not reflecting a lot of light, except for, I think that the easiest example is when we're thinking about metal materials, for instance. And if you are not, you can either use a map, or if you are not using a map, then you have another setting that you can use, that is the smoothness, and you can put a tint on it, and either it's going to be a little bit more rough, so more diffuse or scattered reflection, or you can increase the smoothness till 1, and then you'll get that mirror-like feeling. And if you change the tint of the specularity, then obviously this is the light that will bounce on your plane. I keep it here, and I will put back my map, so it looks a little bit better. You also have normal maps. When you're playing with normal maps, you have a slide, well, not a slider, but a box, and you can really change the direction of the normal maps and or increase the effect of the normal maps if you want. And then you have the height map, and with the height map you can increase obviously the feel of height on your plane, even though it's completely flat in this case. So I exaggerate obviously here, just find something that looks good, and that's it. So we see also that the puddles looks a little bit flat or increase everything, so it helps a lot. We also have different other settings like occlusion, emission, detail mask, and a secondary map. All of these settings are used for, let me switch here back to PowerPoint. So the occlusion is used to darken some hidden areas or recess recessed area. It will also prevent specularity and reflection in these occluded areas, so you can increase that feeling of darkened areas. With emission, you can use this map so it looks like it will emit a light. So if you want to create some effects in room or lights from the ceiling of a room with the emission map, you can fake this without necessarily having real lights coming out of it. With the detail masks, what you can do is, well, you get control over secondary maps, and one of the things that you could do is, let's say that with all of the diffuse, specular, and normal maps, you want to put give the feeling of clothes, let's say tissue, yeah. With secondary maps, you could then put something on top of it, another kind of texture, so you get some embroidering on your clothes, or as we often say, micro details maps. So we can really get the feeling of and highly detailed clothing, for instance. I think it's probably the easiest example to talk about. And if you have seen our doll demo, on the armbands of the doll, we are using secondary maps to add even more details. Now, what is global illumination? I think that the first thing that everyone will see is the bounced light, which is probably the most obvious improvement compared to just direct lighting that we were using before. Of course, it comes from in many forms. You can have the glossy reflection, you can have mirrored reflection, you have diffuse scattering, but or simply the light coming from the direct lighting and then bounce lights from the skybox, as I showed previously with the PBS shader. And often multiple bounces are required to get a good look and really feel that it looks natural and it's particularly true indoors, because you have lights coming from a light, and then it will bounce on the ground and bounce on the walls and bounce back on the table, on furniture, and then it will all of this. Now we are handling this for you. And good news again is that it works on mobile. I will quickly jump and show you an example of global illumination. It's not working. Wow. Okay, global illumination. So this is running with Enlighten, made with Unity Enlighten on a high-end Android device, and it's all global illumination, and then I will show you the different slices that we are using for this, especially for the first part of the demo. Let's go back there. For this part here. So basically what we are doing is we simply compute different slices for the lighting. Let me go back here. So this is our scene as I was showing in the video, but we have direct lighting only, and then we have indirect diffuse, and then we have indirect specular, and then we are putting all of this together and we get the final result. That looks absolutely awesome. So the current state of global illumination is Unity is a little bit long, simply because we always bake everything. You set up your scene, you put lights, you press bake, you wait, and then you get your result. And if you have something to fix, then you go back to step 1 and you press bake, and then you wait. And even for modest, medium complexity scenes, and can take hours to build. So it's not really nice, and it's not really nice either for fine-tuning your lighting in your games. So yeah, fewer iterations for slow iterations. You cannot really fine-tune as much as you want because we're always short on time when you have to deliver a game, and there's nothing dynamic out there. So what about it's even harder, because if you don't have anything dynamic, then you have to fine-tune and do even more iterations with baking and baking and baking. The ideal lighting solution obviously would be real-time performance on all platforms. Everything is dynamically lit. Unfortunately, it's not quite possible yet, even though it's the ideal solution. But we're getting there. And many engines try to provide something, but it's not working. And as you know, Unity supports so many platforms that for us it's also important to make sure that the approach that we are using will work pretty much globally. So our goal is to get faster iteration cycle, get, if possible, immediate feedback without necessarily having to wait for everything to be baked, and have dynamic lighting also in your game, and support all of the different platforms. And as I was saying, it also works on mobile. We integrated Enlighten from Geomerics that provides real-time global illumination and dynamic lighting, high-quality light map baking, and it's working on all the different platforms. With this, now we support the bounce light. We still have baking supported, but one of the cool things we did is we decided to get rid of the bake button because it doesn't make sense. So we have an iterative process in the background that as soon as you move something, we will start baking in the background, and so you don't necessarily have to do everything and then press bake and then come and wait and change everything. So we are trying to make it as fast as possible to run in the background to quickly give you a preview of the work you are doing, so you can fine-tune everything without necessarily having to wait for multiple hours to bake everything. Yeah, that's pretty much what I was saying. It works in the background, so meanwhile, you can, even if it works in the background, you can continue to work, fine-tune everything, and as soon as you get like a preview of what your scenes look like, you can adjust everything just in a matter of a couple of minutes. Static or dynamic lights. I mean, we still have static baking. We also support dynamic lighting. Obviously, depending on the performances that you're looking for your game, you will probably still have static baked light maps. If possible, I would suggest that you use dynamic lighting everywhere, but especially on mobile devices, it will not be possible, unfortunately, because you are limited with the performance of the hardware. And well, here we see the pros and cons for choosing either static or dynamic lighting. Blah blah blah. Oh yeah, one of the cool thing is, I was saying you can fine tune and get a quick preview, but why? Because if we're still baking something in the background, it's a little bit long. Thing is, when we pre-compute the scene, this is a Viking village. I know it looks a little bit special, but it's simply to show up that you have multiple buildings here, we have paths here and there, and what we did is Enlighten is pre-computing the scene and splitting the scene in different systems. So if you change only one of the system out there, we will only rebake the different maps for that part of the scene. So it's obviously faster. Think about the scene being split in voxel or something like that. So in most cases, it will bake faster. Also, blah blah blah. What was I gonna say? Also, even when you bake only one system, it can still take a couple of minutes, which is definitely too long for you to quickly iterate. So what we will integrate eventually is a ray tracer preview directly in your scene view. So your artists work on the scene, move a couple of buildings, move things here and there, change a little bit the settings of the light, and in a couple of seconds we will just do a quick ray trace of the scene for this specific view. So your artist will get a good feeling of what it will look like when it's baked without having I'm not saying waiting for hours for something to be baked, but now for minutes, because everything is split in different systems, and you can really iterate quickly in a matter of seconds. Just fine tune, move this there, this a little bit more here and there, change a little bit the tint of the light, and oh, we're good to go. So basically, we want to make sure that minimal baking are guaranteed, and it will be super fast for you. More productivity, better polished game, and ship on time. We are building the different light maps, ambient occlusion, direct lighting, indirect lighting, and then we are putting all of this back together in one map, so you can also have a look of figure what's going on in the background process. So, and obviously this is all working also because of the new PBS shader. It works with the PBS shader now, not only support bake map, but also dynamic light maps and everything. So, I mean, they both work together. Let's have a quick look at what it looks like in Unity, because I was saying, what happens if I change my sunset? I said I can change the exposure. We played a little bit, so we see that the lighting here changed. If I go on my plane and then I change the color of the light, and then no, that's not what I want to do. Well, okay, here I had a light, a real one now. So I have a directional light here, and as you can see here, I have it's dynamic global illumination. You can have it in static if you prefer. Oops. I can change the tint of the light, and as you can see on the side of the Viking house, you will see that the wood will be influenced by this, but I also can change the bounce intensity, which means that more light will bounce on the ground, and then light also the house, the Viking house. With this, you will get areas like under here, under the rooftop. Usually it would be darkened, a darkened area, but now with bounce intensity you can get the lighting from your ground that will influence this place. Other than that, if you go in the lighting settings on the right, then you have the iterative workflow, as I was saying, or you have if you're a little bit nostalgic of the old times, you can still use the on-demand lighting with just the bake button and then wait, unfortunately. And you can set the different the ambient lighting. Is it coming from the skybox? You can also put just color and change different things for default reflection. Is it again? Is it skybox, or custom would be a cube matte that you will provide? And yeah, that's about it for today for me. So thank you for watching my quick presentation. If you want to know a little bit more about it, I highly recommend that you watch our different blogs. That there's one on global illumination, one on PBS. They are available on our website. And if you have any questions, I work as a field engineer, so I'm basically in relation with all of you out there who are using Unity and are eager to use Unity 5. And if you want, you can also go to the bit.ly URL and have a chance to win a free Unity Pro license. Thank you.